The small, quiet town of Coopersville is located amidst the great woods and deep lakes. To find it on the map, you'll have to spend some time searching through the pages of your atlas. For in this quiet town, hardly anything out of the ordinary ever happens. Nevertheless, I will tell you one story that threw the whole town into panic. On the main street of Coopersville in house number 5, there lived a boy. His name was Tom Mueller. He was a student at the local middle school. Tom was a good-natured boy and would get excited about everything new or unusual. Once there was a classical music concert in Tom's school, and he went to listen to it with the other kids from his class. Musicians played a wonderful piece of classical music with a strange name, fugue. mixture of funny jazz music called ragtime. Fascinated by a jolly fellow who played the biggest, shiniest, and in Tom's opinion, the best of all the musical instruments. Tom was very curious about that instrument. He learned it was called a tuba. After the concert, all Tom could think of was having a tuba for his Christmas present. Every year at the beginning of December, Mr. and Mrs. Mueller asked his son, "What would you like to get for Christmas?" This year, Tom's reply caught them off guard. "I would like it very much if I could have a tuba," he declared. "A tuba? What is that?" asked Mrs. Mueller with a puzzled face. Tom told his parents about the concert, about the big happy musician, and finally about the tuba. "It's the most wonderful instrument in the whole world," he concluded. Mr. and Mrs. Mueller looked at each other and promised to consider Tom's unusual request. Christmas morning had finally arrived, Tom jumped out of bed and ran downstairs. In the living room, under the Christmas tree, he immediately spotted a huge package. He couldn't wait 1 minute. Quickly tearing the wrapping paper and spilling protective styrofoam pieces all over the floor, Tom found his very own shiny new tuba. It looked big and was quite heavy too. Tom remembered how the musician from the concert had played. He tried to do the same. All of a sudden, the Mueller's house was filled with a terrible noise. breakfast. "What a terrible sound," he said to Mrs. Mueller. "Let's go see Tom about it." They found him standing in the middle of the hallway, trying his best to make the loudest sounds possible on his new tuba. Moments later, Mr. and Mrs. Mueller started to receive inquiring phone calls from concerned neighbors. "Yes, everything's all right," answered Mrs. Mueller politely. "It's only Tom practicing his new musical instrument." 3 days later, the town council had an emergency meeting. There was only one question: how to stop the terrible tuba noises from coming from the Mueller's house. After a short discussion, the mayor stood and announced, "Ladies and gentlemen of Coopersville, our beloved town is under sound attack. We have to take immediate action and eliminate the source of this terrible noise. Therefore, by the power invested in me, I hereby decree the Mueller's tuba has to be confiscated and destroyed. To execute this task, I call upon the most respected member of the town council, Cavalier of the Purple Heart, the bravest of us all, our fearless Sheriff Casimir Nemirovsky." Sheriff Nemirovsky was caught by surprise, for he was not used to confiscating musical instruments from children. All that night he lay awake, thinking about his unusual assignment. By sunrise he had made up his mind. After having his morning cup of tea, the sheriff put on his police uniform and drove to the Mueller's home. It was still early when he knocked on the door of house number 5 on Main Street. "Who is there?" asked Mr. Mueller. "It's Sheriff Nemirovsky. I'm on official business. Please open the door, sir." "Hello, Sheriff. Please come in," said Mr. Mueller, opening the door. "What can I do for you this early morning hour?" "I regret to inform you, but I am empowered by the town council to confiscate your noise-making instrument." Do you mean you are here to take away my son's tuba?" asked Mr. Mueller. "I'm afraid so," replied the sheriff. Mr. Mueller excused himself and went up to his son's room. Tom was very upset by the news, and to cheer him up, Mr. Mueller offered to take Tom to see the new traveling circus show that had arrived in Coopersville. "Someday I'll get another tuba," said Tom, "and I will become the best tuba player in the world." "That's the spirit," responded Mr. Mueller. "I'm proud of you, son." Exchanging a few more words with Tom's father, the sheriff picked up the tuba, placed it in the trunk of his car, and started the engine. His plan was to bring Tom's tuba to the forest and abandon it there. After driving into the woods, the sheriff stopped the car. "This clearing will do," he said to himself. Opening the trunk, he reached in for the tuba. Looking around, as if being afraid someone would spot him, the sheriff lifted the tuba to his lips, took a deep breath, and let out one ugly sound. The sound was so loud that snow fell from the nearby trees and sprinkled down. A scared squirrel hid in its hollow. A red-headed woodpecker stopped pecking and stared down at the sheriff with one little bead-like eye. With a shrug, the sheriff turned the tuba in his hands and carefully put it down on the freshly fallen snow. Meanwhile, the traveling circus that had arrived in Coopersville was rehearsing for tonight's show. The bear was simply called Bear. In one of their most successful numbers, Bernard played the tuba, accompanying Bear's tricks. Audiences loved that number and always gave her thunderous laughter and rumbling applause. Bear loved the attention of the people, but most of all, he loved the clown's tuba. He wanted to play it himself. Unfortunately, Bernard didn't share Bear's enthusiasm. After each rehearsal or performance, Bernard always locked his tuba in a trunk. He was afraid that the bear would accidentally damage the fragile instrument. That day, Bernard was so happy with the rehearsal for the show, he decided to take some time off and go on a tour of the town. In his hurry, he forgot to lock his trunk. Left alone, Bear noticed that the forbidden trunk was unlocked. Without hesitation, he rushed to the trunk, opened it, and excitedly grabbed the tuba. Bear's strong paws were too much for the fragile brass instrument, and it crumpled under Bear's powerful grip. When he realized that he had broken Bernard's tuba, Bear got so upset and fearful of punishment that he decided to run away. Slipping outside of the circus tent noticed. Bear ran all the way to the forest. He walked sadly for a long time until he stumbled upon a clearing. In the middle of the clearing, he saw a gleaming object. Bear couldn't believe his eyes. There, just a few paces away in the snow, lay the most beautiful tuba he had ever seen. This time, with the utmost care, Bear picked it up. Copying the movements and the motions he observed from the clowns playing, Bear tried and succeeded in making what he thought was pretty good music. Nearby that very same clearing in the woods, there lived a family of rabbits. They were peacefully sleeping when some strange sounds awakened them. The rabbits were curious to see what was going on and where the sounds were coming from. They saw a bear with something big and shiny in his paws. Bravely, the rabbits went near Bear and saw their reflections on the side of the shiny tuba. Moving closer, one of the rabbits said, "Look, it's a monster!" All the rabbits got scared and started to chatter their teeth. Bear explained to the rabbits about the tuba. It's a beautiful musical instrument. It's supposed to make you want to get up and dance and be happy. It is shiny on the outside, and look, you can see yourself. The rabbits saw that they could do tricks mirrored in the big brass gleaming instrument. They realized that the tuba posed them no danger and hopped around, clapping their tiny paws together. They liked Bear's music very much and asked him to play more and more. Returned from the town and almost fainted when he saw his precious tuba lying crumpled on the floor, and the bear was nowhere to be seen. "It's a disaster," he exclaimed. "I'm ruined. There will be no show without my tuba or my bear. I have to call the police." And he dialed the number of the local sheriff. At police headquarters, the sheriff was getting numerous complaints from the locals. They were calling in to report another sound disturbance. This time, the sounds were coming from the forest. "Sheriff, you must do something about this noise. It's unbearable!" screamed most of the complainers over the phone. The sheriff was getting ready to answer yet another call when, to his surprise, he heard the clown's frantic voice. My bear is missing and someone broke my tuba. Listening to the clown, the sheriff had a nagging feeling that the missing bear and the noise in the forest were somehow connected. I should go to the circus, talk to the clown, and get away from all the angry phone calls, he thought. I'm on my way, curtly answered the sheriff, and was glad to leave his office. Bernard was so upset that he could hardly breathe. His show was everything to him, and it looked like it might not be happening tonight. When the sheriff came to investigate the crime scene, he found bear's footprints leading toward the forest. I think I know where to find your furry friend. Get in the car and let's go. I'll explain everything on the way, said the sheriff. Together they drove up to the forest. As soon as they reached the clearing, Bernard jumped out of the car and ran towards Bear, scaring all the rabbits away. What are you doing here? He asked. Embarrassed, Bear shrugged, played a few more notes before handing the tuba over to the clown. It's a miracle! What a beautiful instrument! And most of all, my bear playing a tuba! What a surprise! We are saved and the show will go on. Tonight we will use this tuba and Bear will play it. We will call this number Tom's Tuba and the Bear. In the evening, the circus was buzzing with excitement for the bear's new act. It looked like the whole town had come. During the show, Tom recognized his instrument. Look, Father, it's my tuba, he exclaimed before running down to the ring. There, Bernard invited Tom to come by after the show to retrieve his instrument. Tom was excited to meet the clown and the bear after the performance. I wish I could play the tuba as well as you, confessed Tom. Bernard whispered something to Bear, to which Bear nodded enthusiastically. Then he said, thanks to you and your tuba, our show was saved, and we've just decided to stay in Coopersville for a little while and teach you to play your beloved instrument. Tom couldn't believe his luck, and everyone was so pleased when Bernard picked up Tom's tuba and played the most exciting tune. Tom, his parents, and Bear all danced, laughed, and celebrated the joy of music.